We sit here in this dead silence.
This
Sounds really
awkward.
Yeah. Hi,
Hi, Jason.
hello, everybody. It's
It's Wednesday.
Wednesday, October the 20th. It's freaking me out that it's the middle of October.
It's almost like more than the middle. I was thinking about that. It's kind of like closer to the end than the middle. I guess it is middle end.
The middle end, yeah. And of course, everyone in schools is working hard on that old report coming up, right?
Well, I know there's lots of conferencing happening or upcoming conferencing with families. And then I guess reporting period would be around the corner. And yeah, it's hard to believe we've actually been in school. Like it's gone so quick, but yet not. I don't know. It's weird.
Yeah, so we kind of thought it was fitting. It's a great time for us to sort of talk about that emotional. We're talking about emotions kind of this month. And so one of the important parts is that emotional safety, right?
Yeah.
And especially when we're talking with kids and we're kind of assessing where they are, we're talking to parents and kind of sharing with them where their kids are at, but we're also sort of where we are ourselves in working as staff who are getting a little tired, getting a little worn down because of all the things, all the expectations, and that whole need to have things sort of finished just causes all that stress. And so, yeah, having an understanding what emotional safety is for all of us, I think, is really important.
Yeah, and I think too, it's like all those added layers that we're experiencing simultaneously with COVID-19. And we talk lots about, when we're talking about COVID in particular, the physical aspect of safety, right? And it's the sanitation and the mask wearing and all of the things that we do to keep people physically safe. But it's the emotional safety piece that I think is also really important. And I think it's an easier thing to talk about physical safety than to talk about emotional safety, because when we're looking at emotional safety, it is that vulnerability, to be able to express your emotions or to even be able to reflect on what it is that you're feeling. And I think it's something that we need to talk, more about more often.
Oh, and just having that own awareness of ourselves and our own vulnerabilities, right? And where do we express those vulnerabilities? Or more so, where do we feel safe to express those vulnerabilities? And if we are there, imagine where our students are. When they come in the morning, and maybe they're just not feeling good. Have you created that environment in where they're comfortable and feel safe enough to say, you know what, I had a rough night, and here's the reasons why, or there's just so much going on, or even that vulnerability. I don't know how to do this assignment. Makes you, if you're vulnerable, then you're just going to go into all that eternal negative talk, and not having that ability or that emotional stability and safety to be able to say, I'm just not feeling good about this. It's so important.
Yeah, and I think really, unless we have achieved some emotional safety, then the learning isn't really happening, right? So we need to create those safe spaces, physically safe, but emotionally safe, so that students have the capacity to learn, and that even we as adults have the capacity to be teaching or to be supporting or to be engaging, right? Like it's definitely that reciprocal safety when we talk about, regulation and co-regulation. Even if we were to just look at it from the standpoint of that, we're creating those safe spaces by the safety we feel ourselves. So if we're not feeling emotionally safe or not feeling emotionally regulated, then that's difficult to then provide that environment to our students. So I think it's really that awareness of where we're at and what we need, and being able to ask for those supports if we are feeling overwhelmed as adults, and then being able to recognize that overwhelm in our students to be able to support them too.
Yeah, and we sort of have dedicated this year to talking about mental wellness. You know, we like the word mental wellness instead of mental health because we think of that holistic part of our holistic model. And so, you know, people think, well, what does emotional safety fit into to mental wellness? You know, it's kind of a stretch, but if we don't have the conditions in our life to where we feel safe enough to say, you know, maybe I'm struggling in this area a little bit, then that are just going to continue to cause us more and more difficulty along the way. So you're right. This is part of the grounding of who we are and creating that balance. And if we don't have this, we're never going to find that balance.
Well, and I think it's like recognizing that showing our vulnerability is actually our strength, right?
Mhm.
Like, I think that we need to see that that whole, motto of it's okay not to be okay, to me is really important, because being able to express ourselves emotionally and to be able to indicate if we are feeling vulnerable, or if we are feeling overwhelmed, or we are feeling disconnected, or whatever that is that's uncomfortable, that we are able to express that, and express that, with courage, and to know that that's a strength, not a weakness. And I think helping our students, like we work really hard in all of our schools, I think, and we meaning like all of our staff, and to build to build the vocabulary, emotional literacy for our students, so that they have the ability to identify how they're feeling, and to recognize what they need, and how to access those supports. And I really feel proud of all of our schools that we work in, because I feel like our teachers really do work really hard to create those safe spaces in their classrooms, and are often harder on themselves. Like, again, we go back to that whole be kind to yourself. I feel like we are so, we, again, as our staff, are so cognizant of supporting their students, but they need to also figure out like how to support themselves, and be kind to themselves.
Yeah, it's funny you're saying those words, and I'm thinking, it's almost such contrary to the messages we get from the greater society, right? Showing your vulnerabilities as a strength, those kind of things. But that whole understanding, what we're talking about, a holistic understanding, is really kind of going against the way we look at overall health. We really segment it and break it into little pieces, and then we end up kind of not finding our way that we should find. So yeah, I really like that. That was a good description of finding that balance. So
And you're right, because our health is so interconnected. Like, we can't separate it like in quadrants of physical. Like, I know the wheel shows those 4 quadrants, but it's so fluid. Like, everything is affecting everything. And so, we need to be aware of sort of the complexity of our mental well-being, mental wellness,
yeah.
emotional wellness,
So
physical,
emotional safety is really having the optimal conditions of feeling supported and secure and trusting, and all those conditions that are sort of fundamental in our relationships we establish. And if we have those in place, then we're able to sort of be vulnerable and show who we are and what we are experiencing.
Right, because if we don't have those things that you were just talking about, like in those relationships, those predictable, consistent, safe, secure, nurturing relationships, then we won't let down sort of that armor. We'll sort of keep those things closed, right? In terms of showing our vulnerability, expressing our feelings. And so I think we need to start seeing vulnerability as a strength, and supporting each other, being kind to ourselves, being kind to each other, recognizing when people are feeling vulnerable, and extending our hand for support.
Yeah. So we all are going to challenge ourselves this week with the ability to create those safe emotional spaces for ourselves, but also creating environments within our classroom where it's emotional safe for kids to experience what kids experience daily, right?
Exactly.
Have a great week, everybody.
See you next week.
Good luck.